Relentless execution.
That's what they say. We've got a few things to talk about today.
We do. In the second half of the episode, I believe, we want to talk about Scale AI. Meta acquired Scale AI. Keen Down Round listeners would know that Scale AI has been mentioned twice on the podcast before. Once in the context of stablecoins, for God's sake. The second, in relation to someone enabling pedophilia. I'm just going to come out here and say it. Allegedly. Sorry, very clearly. Allegedly.
Yeah. Someone associated with Scale AI being involved in a skeezy OnlyFans ripoff. And now, if you heard just those two episodes of Down Round, now you're hearing that Meta is acquiring 49% of Scale AI for $14 billion. You might say, hang on, the fellas have missed a few points of this story by hyperfixating on two things that don't matter all that much. Although I will say the last time we talked about it, we did explain what they do. We're going to get back into that again. Again, that's in the second half of the episode. First half, we are talking about Apple's WWDC, Worldwide Developers Conference, and all the stuff they talked about and announced there. So, free listeners, you're about to get 30-odd minutes of Apple, and then we'll talk about Scale AI for our
and Meta and circling the wagons, maybe, and maybe like OpenAI, Tailwind, maybe. I don't want to overcommit because I think we did that last week, but
we did overcommit. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we're talking about.
Okay, cool. Let's get into it, though. WWDC, Apple's developer conference. Now, you may remember 1 year ago at WWDC, it was one of the biggest WWDCs of all time. I personally was pumped because Apple announced brand new Siri coming soon. You'd be able to do things like ask Siri, hey, Siri, book a restaurant when my mum lands in town.
Yep.
And it'd be able to do that kind of stuff. Etc. Etc. That was 1 year ago.
This was Apple's Apple Intelligence, not AI, not artificial intelligence, Apple Intelligence moment. And what
that was 1 year ago today, basically.
Yep, basically. And what we've learned is that basically everything they said during that presentation was not true, was not ready, was bullshit. They've walked it back significantly. Not everything. Obviously, there's a bunch of Apple Intelligence features on your phone.
Siri, by the way, since literally I said the first thing, it's been listening to this entire time. Siri has been listening.
It's because we said, hey, Siri or something.
Yeah, and it's just still going. And I can't... Stop. Siri, stop. You need to stop. Oh, it stopped. That did work.
That's pretty good. All right. Not set up as a dub for Apple.
But yeah. So that obviously they... none of that stuff eventuated. We've litigated this at length, ad nauseum.
Yeah, Apple behind on AI. Everyone's heard this story. They've had multiple internal failures to get their head around the AI moment. This WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference, just again, for those who tune in and don't pay attention to Apple stuff super closely, this is their yearly, developer conference. Generally, they announce a bunch of software stuff. New features. They have in the past announced like new devices, but it's pretty rare. It's mostly what is the next release for Macs, iPhones, iPads, watches, whatever.
Hence why Apple Intelligence at the last one. It's like that's a software feature. Now, we'll get into some of the big talking points, but I will say off the top, Craig Federici we talked about as...
head of software.
Yeah, one of the line of potential successors to Tim Cook. I don't think that he's favoured at the moment. He did have a minor mea culpa moment. There was 2 sentences in reference to, hey, 1 year ago you said all this stuff and you didn't deliver on it.
Yep.
You know, like vaporware, etc. I'm going to go verbatim here. We're continuing our work to deliver the features that make Siri even more personal. This work needed more time to reach our high quality bar, and we look forward to sharing more about it in the coming year.
Yep.
Which actually, like after the fact, like the keynote and whatever, people were trying to drill down and I was like, what does it in the coming year mean? Does that mean like
365 days from today?
Apparently not. It means next year.
Until the end of 2026.
Now, obviously, those 2 sentences were like hyper-honed, where it's like, we look forward to sharing more about it in the coming year.
Which could essentially mean they make an announcement on December 31st, 2026. It gives them a lot of leeway that they didn't give themselves last time.
You got to admire though the comms here, like
Yeah.
just drilling down on like
There's some precision in language.
it didn't meet our high bar because obviously everything you expect from us is brilliant. It didn't quite meet it, so it's almost like the third party didn't achieve the high standards of Apple. But we do look forward to telling you more about it in the coming year, next year at the end of next year. We fucked up, and we're really hoping we have an update on that at the end of next year.
And just as a reminder from the reporting that's come out from various quarters, it seems like there was some sort of communication breakdown between marketing and engineering. Or engineering said what they thought maybe they would be able to do, and marketing said, that sounds amazing, that's what we're going to build the whole keynote around. And then it turned out, shock horror, they couldn't deliver any of that. Their internal models weren't good enough. Internal groups were in disarray, whatever. I
don't buy the idea of marketing being handed the buck here. And not for any reason, like personal reason, but I've seen organizations and this idea that it's like, marketing's like, you can make the computer do this, right? And engineering goes, oh, I don't know. Maybe there's a 1% chance. And marketing say, that's a yes, let's go. And engineering goes, oh.
No, stop.
No, oh, we didn't know you were going to take yes seriously.
No, like, you're right. I shouldn't have. I spoke out of turn.
No, I mean, like, obviously the senior people within engineering are liaising with marketing, and the senior people are being told, are saying, we can achieve this, right, to their underlings. And the underlings are saying, like, yeah, I think we can get some of the way there. And to their underlings are saying, yeah, I mean, maybe we can get some of the way there. And then their underlings are saying, you must deliver this. And their underlings are saying, there's no fucking chance we can do this.
Yeah.
Something like that is typically how organizations
I'm glad you added a bit of nuance. And if I can add a little bit more nuance, just for those who are still feeling uncharitable towards the marketing departments of maybe their organization.
How can you feel uncharitable towards marketing? They connect you with the brands you love.
Exactly. And I would just say, for something for you to think about, is that there was someone else who bore on his shoulders the sins of the world. A carpenter from Nazareth by the name of Jesus Christ.
That's right. And all he was doing is trying to spread the message of products and services that you may enjoy.
Exactly right. So that, maybe ponder that before you go in on your local marketing department, be it Apple's or at your own business.
Yeah, there was a gentleman who sat underneath a tree and didn't eat anything for some time, and all he was trying to do is spread the word of a service, aka Nirvana, that you may attain were you acquire certain habits.
I think you got a little theologically confused, but I understand the point you're getting at.
I mean, I've never been a details guy.
No.
Anyway,
like many marketing people.
So, yeah, vibe. Craig Federici vibe is we fucked up. So we got a little bit of a mea culpa from Apple. Anyway, on to the big news.
So just to be clear, mea culpa, and then they didn't talk about AI a whole lot.
No. There was one key important thing that they kind of glossed over because I think they were just like, again, maybe the smart people in marketing were like, just fucking bulldoze through it. Just get 4 minutes, apparently, if someone timed it, they spent on it Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
Which,
we got to say something because it's unfortunately the biggest topic in technology, but let's not tie ourselves in.
Yeah, let's not dwell.
Dwelling causes serious problems a year ago.
Yeah, let us learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
They did a growth.
I think that's good. Learning from your mistakes.
And this is important, though. They did say that developers were going to be able to access the on-device AI via APIs. And I know, not to get too technical or whatever, but like point being, one of the vague issues... Okay, actually, no. You know what? I'm going to set up what the narrative is first. Then I'm going to give my own opinion.
Okay. One
of the issues with using AI, say I want to use some vague AI in my software. And I'm going to take Marco Arman as an example, the guy who makes Overcast, a podcasting app. And he was like, oh yeah, this is actually good because with on-device AI, he might want to, for example, like with podcasts, you can put chapter markers in. We don't do it because who can't be fucked, to be perfectly honest.
I'm busy man. Stuff to do.
They are handy when there's podcasts that use chapter markers For the most part, I don't use them either, but it allows you to like skip between chapters. It's useful when skipping over ads, let's be frank. That's like I think the primary use case.
Yep.
Marco suggested that he could, in his podcasting app, for example, using AI, potentially do something like use AI to identify when there's a new topic discussed in a podcast and then insert a chapter marker.
Yep.
Something like that. Right now, because of there's so many fucking podcasts, if he were to use an API, as in if he was to use a service, if he's to use like friggin' OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever, it would cost too much money to do that for the benefit being not that great, given that there's so... But if he could do it for free using Apple's on-device...
On the user's device.
On the user's device, just by free, I mean like using battery power. Let's be frank, nothing is free. As we've said, use Image Playground on your phone and your phone just heats up to slightly under frying an egg.
Yeah.
Then that's the kind of feature that could be added.
Yeah.
Using it, which Apple has now enabled. You can use this on-device AI. This is not good. On-device, on an iPhone, as powerful as iPhones are and as fantastic their hardware is, it's not going to be that good, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But for things like that, identify, like, it can change the vibe of a text message. You see it in Apple Intelligence notifications. It can, like, summarize notifications. We've all seen it if you're an Apple user. Very average, whatever. That's the kind of thing it can do. Positive side, I do think, and I've been kind of pushing towards this direction a little bit, I do think there is a world of potential opportunities here that are opened up that I'm not smart enough or creative enough to kind of picture what that means. But I do think there's potential here for like cool stuff to happen.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it will happen now, if only because I don't think that the on-device LLMs that Apple are offering are particularly good or useful. But you can see that they're opening up the idea of like, if you're an app developer, you can use our language engine to do cool stuff within your app.
Yeah,
without anything being handed off to the cloud, and all happens on device. And
yeah, you don't have to worry about some third party, this, that, and the other. And like, but I do think there are potentials here, not in the world of like I'm an AI app, but I think they use the example of like a fitness app that so it's tracking your workouts and then it can give you a daily summary of like. Yeah. Your workouts.
I think
things like that, which doesn't need to be like AI powered enabled thing. It's just like very little features that
I think so too. And as you said, the app developer doesn't want to hand off everything to a GPT API or an Anthropic API
and pay for it. By the way,
and pay for every touch point. They want it to run locally on your device. That's actually an advantage that Apple has. Right now, to be clear, Google will have that as well via its on-device like Gemma, which is like I think it's called Gemma.
Gemma, yeah.
It's like their tiny edge. But Google also struggles with the fact that they have a million different device installations. They don't know what everyone has, whereas Apple can at least be like, every iPhone after the 13 can do this or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is still a barrier because like if you're
absolutely.
making an app that does critical stuff with their on-device LLM and it doesn't work with one that's older than like an iPhone 15, you've cut out a huge no user base.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
They're laying the groundwork for stuff later, and power to them. There was also a few other little things which are not really. I mean, they are actually like the live translation of phone calls and things like that.
Live, okay.
Which
I got a bone to pick with everyone, not with everyone, with the marketing.
Oh my god. He's up on there. No. He's up there on the cross, mate, and you're more. He's looking at you and he's saying, "Why have you forsaken me?"
Guys, Babelfish, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy live translation. You guys understand that's not ever going to happen, right? Like languages are structured differently. Because I saw people complaining like it's not live translation. You have to wait till the end of the sentence and then it starts to translate. It's like yes, in different languages they structure sentences differently. English is not how every language is structured. Many languages are structured the opposite way around. Anyone who's learnt another language knows that sentences are structured differently. So how can you fucking do a live translation if you don't know what the end of the sentence is?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's when
Sorry, I just saw some. It pisses me off. It's American. Americans don't speak any other languages. And I even saw some people being like, why would I learn another language when I can master the most important and beautiful language?
Yeah, like the lingua franca, the language of international business. I fully agree. Anyway,
Yeah,
but
that's right,
and
Mandarin.
also this feature has been in Android for a while. In fact, and the other one that came out was like, you can when you be put on hold, you can functionally hang up and they text you when the agent.
Oh yeah, that
speaks to you.
shit actually seems cool.
It was cool, but again, I think it's been on Android for like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
So,
that
like,
stuff.
you get put on hold music. The phone detects that it's hold music and goes, "Would you like to
I'll call you when they're back.
go aside?" Then the call stays connected, but it seems to end on your end. And then when you get a push notification when the agent picks up, and the agent gets like a robo voice that says, "The person will be with you in a second." So whatever, and this is it's AI powered, obviously, but it's not
No.
dramatic. But that basically captures all the AI stuff I talked about. As we said, very minimal. The main event, which everyone...
I know, you're probably waiting for, like, why have the boys not talked about liquid glass yet?
Why are they fucking edging me by talking about on-device LLMs and some guy that runs a podcast app? Marco Arment? Why are they talking about this when liquid glass was announced? Liquid glass being the new design language for Apple devices, iOS, Mac, which will be as part of the new version rollouts, which have been updated. They've fixed all their fucked numbering. Every device had a different number. The watch, the Mac, the iPhone, they're all being renamed to year versions. Like we're back on fucking Windows 95 or whatever. It'll be iOS 26, Mac OS 26, Watch OS 26, iPad OS 26, blah, 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 blah. Liquid glass is their new design language.
So I'm just going to have to stop you there.
Yep.
Remember how I said that Siri was activated and
Yep.
we were like banging on about, and I was like, book a restaurant with my this, that, and the other.
Yep.
And I was like, Siri's just been on for the last
Yeah.
minute. My wife just sent me a text.
What'd you say?
What reminder did you just set about booking a restaurant? I'll say, sorry.
Podding.
I'll do voice to text. Sorry, doing a podcast. That was Apple Intelligence interpreting what we said. Love you, babe. Hope the kids went off to sleep nice and easy. See you in maybe 90 minutes.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the interruption. But instructive about how content aware and intelligent Apple systems are.
Anyway, yes.
Liquid glass.
And
And now this is the first, this is basically the first Apple language redesign since iOS 7 came in, which was 10 years ago.
Yeah, we got rid of skeuomorphic and we went with flat.
When everything became flat, and they got rid of all the real world skeuomorphic sort of stuff.
Skeuomorphic.
Skoyo.
I call it skeuomorphic, but maybe I'm just,
Could be skeuomorphic. Could be. It's not really a word.
Skeuomorphic.
It's not really a word that I find myself using much in real life. People don't want to hear it.
So we're talking about the shading. Everything used to be, when the iPhone first came out, 3D. Everything looked kind of three-dimensional. It had shadows and shading.
And it was all the apps had had an analog of the real world. The podcast player was like a tape player.
The camera was like a lens and whatnot.
And the game center was like a fugly pool table felt casino style. The notepad was like a real notepad app.
Yeah.
It was kind of cringe for after a while at least. But also, they were trying to inaugurate a bunch of normal people into using devices, including a lot of people that weren't that familiar with computers. So they were using real world analogs for stuff. And Steve Jobs loved this shit.
Yeah.
Some might say one of his design flubs was he loved that crap. But anyway, iOS 7 was when it all started going flat and sort of helped change the design language of software.
Yeah.
And now they're getting rid of it for something that kind of is not radically different, but it's very glassy and watery and blobby.
They've been doing this for a while. You've been noticing, if you're a Safari user, I think they do it in Chrome as well, where it's like the top of your tab or the top of the window will kind of change to the background of the website.
Yeah, it's all everything's kind of translucent and glassy. Yeah, this is more. So they've been doing that for a while for sure. This is more like it's liquid glass.
Well, yeah, it's liquid glass. So I installed the beta because I don't give a fuck. Like people are like, you should never. Well, actually, I will say before we get to like it, it's anti-corporate Memphis. People could say that like Apple were responsible for bringing in that kind of startup-y corporate illustrative 2D design style that is like proliferated everywhere, and like every kind of SaaS company, and even if they're dodgy and weird users, Apple needed to move away from that because it, became lame. I installed it so you didn't have to, and also I don't really mind. Like, there's this like rule, like never install a beta on your phone or your laptop and
your daily driver.
Your daily driver. Never install it. It's like, I don't give a fuck, man. Your phone's a toy, all right?
Okay.
You use it for doing childish shit. I know that you'll panic if you don't have your phone. All of a sudden, like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Oh my God, my phone's out of battery. I feel naked and alone and lost. It's like, you're fine. You don't have your toy. You can't scroll on your toy.
You don't have your little binky.
Yeah, exactly. You don't, oh no, you don't have, baby doesn't have his binky. Oh no. It's okay. You'll be okay. Your binky will be fine when we get home. You charge your binky. Okay? You'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. So, yes, I'll fucking put the developer beta on my fucking binky. All right? No worries.
Yeah.
And guess what? If it breaks, one less thing to worry about. One less thing to worry about.
Well, there you go, folks. Just if you take anything from this episode, it's that you are a child, your phone is a toy, and if you're scared of it, grow up.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a serious issue if Google Authenticator breaks.
And also, if you're like a surgeon or something, you need to be on call, you are excluded from this conversation. Your phone is not a toy. It's a device.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
If you're a citizen journalist...
if you're a citizen journalist, you need to go film a riot or something. But again, you're excluded.
Two people excluded: surgeons and citizen journalists.
Yep.
Anyway,
also, if you're like a CFMEU boss,
John Secker innocent,
and if you're doing some intimidation on a job site or something, you can have your phone as well. Everyone else, it's a toy.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, I've installed it. It's fine.
Okay.
People are mad about this. Like, so, okay, do we need to describe it? You would have seen it.
You would have seen it. It's
Like,
glassy.
it's glassy.
Translucent, everything's blobby.
Everything's blobby. But, like, the kind of cool or / different thing is if you move, for example, if you swipe down, you pull the pane over, it doesn't just, like, blur the background.
It deforms.
It deforms
it's
as
like
if...
It's like you're looking through a water drop on a window pane or whatever.
It's that, or like a shower, like a glass shower thing, like a magnifying glass. It's kind of vaguely like a foggy magnifying glass over things. That's what it does to the background.
It's basically like liquid glass.
Liquid glass.
It's kind of like an organic, blobby sort of thing. A lot of funny comparisons to,
Windows Vista.
Windows Vista, which tried a similar sort of thing.
Different.
But it was also like, kind of blobby.
Now, give me your take first. Give me your take, mate.
My take is that I think it looks fine. Whatever. It's a new design language. They do this every now and again. I think this is this is my big picture thing.
Yeah, go on.
Obviously, Apple's designers don't just do something because they think it's like looks sick and is a cool new thing to do. These people are paid extremely well. In fact, it is Apple's like point of difference. Like they are a design-led company and they've always had a deep sort of like design logic to everything they do. I think, and my takeaway is that they are seeing this as kind of like the final smartphone interface. Like they are imagining this as the last device interface that they will use. Because again, the last language that they had, which started with iOS 7, this flat thing, it has a name, but I can't remember what it is, lasted for 10 years. And in 10 years, who the fuck knows what kind of devices we're going to be using? And I think their thinking here is like, we are trying to imagine a design language that can seamlessly move into whatever the successor is, which is like real-world spatial computing, stuff that integrates in an organic way with your environment. That's what they're making, right?
That is the whole thing. So
they're trying to ramp off into the post-smartphone with like this kind of organic, glassy, blobby things being layered on top of each other kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting.
No, totally. The flat UI thing that they did before was
great.
But it's very like phone centric. But yes, and they specifically said like this glass UI thing came from the Vision Pro first.
Yeah,
right? This was like where they kind of started experimenting with it on the Vision Pro. They're expanding it across their lines, and as you say, they keep using the terms like organic, motion. It's supposed to feel real. They kept on using like a literal example of. I assume they just got these made afterwards. These like glass things moving over paper and words to try and show how like organic and real it is.
And you can see that again. There's lots of like a lot of their touch points are things in the real world.
Yeah,
and like how different surfaces interact within the real world.
Yeah,
which is again entirely different from this extremely digital thing they had, where it was kind of like we're throwing away all the shit.
Two-dimensional two dimensions don't exist in the real world.
And like think about the leap where they went from, as we talked about, fucking nasty green casino felt in the Game Center app, which was like, and like the literal fucking legal notepad that was the Notes app with like the weird pencil font or like pen font. That into whatever was them saying, all right, you get it. You understand how to interact with the screen.
You're on a phone.
Now.
Yeah, you're on a screen. Yeah.
We can leave all that shit behind and we're going ultra digital. This is them being like, no, we're leaving the screen behind.
Well, it's time to start forgetting the phone.
You got to forget the phone. That's what they're trying to do. Very, like, as you say, very, very explicitly. I think that's really interesting that's like they've changed their language to that. Because again, as I said, this is them planning for what's the next 10 years. And they obviously think that in the next 10 years there will be a transition.
Well, I mean, even at WWDC, like one of the features of the Vision Pro they announced, and I don't have a Vision Pro.
Yeah.
I still got the Meta one. It hasn't been used in a while.
Okay.
But one of the features they announced is that widgets, so like you can put like little widgets around your house, right? Like in the kitchen you can have a clock, and in a lounge room you can have like the temperature and your calendar, and you can have a calendar in the kitchen as well. And like if you walk into the kitchen, these widgets are sitting there in the space. Previously, apparently when the Vision Pro shut down or ran out of batteries, those widgets would go away.
Yep.
Now they're persistent. I mean, that to me sounds like something they probably should have had on like, V0. But point being, that ties into this idea that it's like you've now got these persistent widgets in your VR space. You can see the kind of there's like organic things that do kind of stack on top of each other and exist within the real world. Because that's the whole thing with the new UI is like everything stacks on top of each other. It feels very kind of physical.
Yeah, exactly. And like they've done all this translucency stuff in the past, but they're obviously thinking in terms of there are real things, whether it's like the world or content or whatever, which is funny, which is like real world and content.
It's all the same, brother.
It's all the same. And you got to stop thinking about them as separate things if you weren't already. Our interface is just these kind of like blobby, organic, glassy things that kind of slide over your real world. And when I say real world, I can also mean content that you're watching.
Exactly. The real world being like your mobile phone's home screen.
And this is like exactly the logic of the Vision Pro, where it's kind of like the real world and your VR interface or AR interface or whatever blend into one another.
Yeah.
And you're just like twisting a knob to glide between the two.
Yeah, you're determining how deep or far you are.
It's highly dystopian.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of funny because, as we've talked about time and time again, VR, it's been shown, at least to date, to have like a pretty niche audience. It's not a mass market product yet, but this is that language and that thinking being like thrust onto everyone else.
Yeah.
In subtle ways. Obviously, you're not leaping right into this, but they're preparing the ground.
Yeah, as well as like putting it across their own software, and their own operating systems, so that it can just kind of grow and perpetuate from here. Now, there's obviously been a lot of criticism of it.
Yeah, a lot of people say
it looks like shit. And
a lot of
fuck you.
A lot of tech people don't like it because...
literally the comments, the replies to all the people announcing it, including Tim Cook, are just like people being like, fuck you, this is fucked, I hate this, this is shit. Sorry to anyone who's listening with children in the car, apologies for my language, but that's basically...
We have heard complaints from those people, and I apologize, but I don't know why you listen to a tech podcast with your children. Don't make them think about the computer. But no, I agree. the kind of like gadget head community, or like the tech community, find it quite repulsive. Because there's general feeling that's kind of like, this is just like glitzy, flashy,
it's a waste.
Shaders that are a waste, that are going to drain my battery and make my device run super slow.
Yeah.
And also maybe be quite illegible in certain context and blah, blah, blah. But the other side is, if you look at the comments on like TikTok and YouTube and stuff, they tend to be a lot more positive. Because like the average person likes glitzy, fun effects and things like that, which is what this is.
Yeah.
But also just like, it's the normies like this vibe. They like this stuff.
Yeah.
They like a cool new look. They like getting a slick new look because it's new and it's cool, and like their phone is going to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the right opinion, in my opinion.
No, I'm sure.
As I said, I haven't shied away from this. I am 105 IQ estimated, and
tested.
I've tested to the judgment of my peers, and they reflect back. I've never had anyone no Downey has ever said to me like, you know what, I think you're less or more than that.
No one has put their hand up and said, I dispute that. Everyone's been like,
and that's where I've been tested.
That sounds about right.
A jury of my peers.
I'll say this as well.
My point is,
sorry.
No, sorry, let me finish, mate. I like it. That's all. I think it looks cool. I'm using it. It feels cool.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, we're going to find out if this remains true now that Apple is in. I'm not going to say they're in dire straits, but they're certainly more fragile than they've ever been, or more fragile than they've been in a while.
Yeah.
But like, they have always been leaders in terms of design language for tech. If they decide on a new, every website has looked like the Apple website for ages. They like set the terms of that. Every interface, computer interface has drawn from what Apple has done. When Apple went flat, they weren't the first to do it, but they certainly like dragged everyone else along to go flat. And we've been living in a flat digital design world for ages.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like, it is interesting how like defined by like what Apple thinks is cool, so much of like radiates elsewhere in culture.
But they do think about it a lot.
Obviously, they think about it a lot. They have lots of like human interface guidelines, and they have a philosophy. I mean, the thing that grabbed me, and I apologize. I might have mentioned this on the podcast before, and it is movie related. I apologize.
I know we do accept it, I suppose.
I mean, one of the things, and this is a debate in the world of like film and stuff, is that phone screens are not very cinematic, and a lot of directors and cinematographers like spend their lives trying to figure out, how the fuck do I film a phone screen in a way that's interesting for an audience? Because all of our lives live on those fucking screens, but also just showing it is often not that cool.
No,
and sometimes you do
like messages to the left and right of the widescreen.
Like you're like bringing up messages. Do you show the screen? But like one movie, Uncut Gems, directed by the Safdie brothers, it came out like 5 years ago, 2019, I think it came out, but it was set during the 2012 NBA Finals. And
this is how I win.
This is how I win. Yes, this is how I win. But like, because it's set during,
I can bet on this. We can bet on this.
Yeah.
I have not seen the movie.
You haven't seen, but you've seen the memes. But there's so many shots in that movie of like people with like the iOS 6 text message interface. I watched this in like 2019 when it first came out, and it immediately fucking locks you into that era because you're like, I remember those fucking texts. I remember like being that age and being in 2012. That thing has really stuck with me as kind of like, fuck, what Apple does really does define like the visual language of an era.
Yeah, yeah.
And now they're pulling the trigger again to this like weird organic glassy thing.
Yeah.
And it's going to like reverberate through everyone else's design language.
Yeah. Like music videos, obviously, because they're always so current. They have obviously a far shorter turnaround time than movies. They always get so like immediately placed in an era, and like they use mobiles all the time in music videos.
Yeah.
And that'll happen. Like a music video that was made literally like last month is going to look dated in 6 months' time.
So we'll find out whether they still have, the juice in terms of dragging the culture along.
I think they're gonna. Like, people are hating, and don't get me wrong. Okay, like the hate is because it's so transparent when you like drag down. People are saying it looks like shit, as in like you bring down that shortcuts menu basically. and you can still see so much of the background. I do think they might tweak the opacity a little bit. I think they might have gone a tiny bit hard, but they'll tweak it a little bit. It looks friggin' cool. I'm using the beta. I literally saw your phone at the table today. I've been using this for less than 24 hours.
And you were disgusted?
And I was like, damn, my phone looks cooler than yours. Like, yours looks shit and old already. It's just a look. And yes, the animations are crazy. The translucency is kind of crazy. Everything's smaller. All the buttons and stuff are like smaller, whatever. Some things I don't love as yet, but this is like, I remember having an argument with my cousin who like worked at Atlassian, whatever, when they got rid of the button, like the...
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
button.
no, this is better. Like, you got to back them on this. Like, more screen is better. And everyone was mad about the button going away. Everyone was mad about the fucking headphone jack going away. Everyone was mad about when Facebook introduced the newsfeed. Everyone's always fucking mad. None of them read the book or watched the documentary The Shock of the New. That's like, and it shows. Like, and it shows.
You never watched The Shock of the New? It's coming off you in stink lines, brother. Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, sure. It looks different. Like, the thing you love has changed somewhat. Like, guess what? You're going to love it. And it'll take you around maybe 30 minutes. You can join a Facebook group. You can join a Facebook group and protest and say, like, bring back the flat UI. Bring back flat UI. 1 million people think that Apple should bring back flat UI. And then a day later, you'll be like, this is now my new paradigm. And anything before this looks like shit and old.
I do think that, like, even before Apple have got to this weird blobby organic stuff, which, you know, I agree with you. Kind of, it does look cool. It's an interesting new way of doing things. There has been like a general design pivot away from ultra Apple style minimalism. Yes. We've talked about it as well. Like software that really leans into like this opinionated serif fonts, not like minimalist white, black.
Yeah.
Colours.
Anthropic is a classic example.
Anthropic, exactly. Like there's that, and like, you know, all these companies. Like, I don't want to refer to fucking the browser company and Arc and whatever. But there's tons of companies that are like that, which do like this old style, early 20th century design language. You're seeing tons of it just because people need to distinguish themselves from like ultra minimalist Helvetica vibe.
Yeah.
We've been living in like a Helvetica era for like 15 years.
Yeah, and corporate Memphis, all that
corporate
shit.
Memphis. People are trying to get away from that with more like organic design styles. This seems like the same thing that's replicating.
Yeah, it also is pretty hard to do, I think. Like, I know that there are also haters will say that some grad student can do this in fucking Unreal Engine or whatever in half a day. But I think that to make it snappy...
No, absolutely.
Like, it'll be tough to implement in a very, like, responsive way. I don't know. Point being, fucking hell, we've spoken about it too long. I think the hate is unjustified. I think this is... Facebook needs to get rid of the news feed all over again, and you're going to fucking love it as soon as it comes out.
No,
and, like, don't get me wrong. They're going hard on, like, animations and shit, but I like that. Let's bring a bit of art back. Let's bring a bit of vibe back. Like, sure, you can wait 0.1 second.
Do you remember the first time you saw it on macOS when you minimized the window and it was like...
Yeah.
That was big.
That was huge.
You could hold the shift or, like, control button or whatever the button was, and it did it in slow motion. And you were like, wow.
I mean, first time, like, and you could hover the like magnifying glass over your apps, and it would kind of enlarge them as you moved. That's basically what this is. You know, you bring up your taskbar on Mac OS, and like you scroll your mouse cursor along and it enlarges them. It's like that, but entire UI.
Yeah, everything's blobby and expanding and vibrating.
Exactly. And like things are moving and breathing. That's the thing. It's like you swipe down now, and like if you pull down on your notifications, the gaps between things kind of expands more depending on where your finger is. They already did this, I think, in Messenger. Emojis in Messenger. If you pull down in Messenger, the emojis will kind of lag the message they're on. You know, everything's kind of attached to each other. Like, it feels
Again, it's this very, like, layered, as if it is in the real world. Like, I'll go out and say it. This is, like, a return to, like, skeuomorphic skeuomorphic
Yeah.
principles.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's like everything has to feel like it has physics and is connected to the real world, and things are layered on top of each other in a realistic way. Because again, coming back to my point, I fully think this is them just being like, we are designing the language for when you don't have a phone. Maybe you just have like AirPods with cameras in it, and then a bunch of fucking, you've got glasses and you've got a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, and shit pops up.
We want to
You're used to it.
We want to design language that can transition into that without us having to do a fucking redesign in 5 years when we figure out glasses.
Yeah.
I think that's 100% the way they're doing it, and good luck to them.
Yeah. And, guess what? Like, your phone can handle at all times 15% to 20% of the processor is dealing with just animation.
It's dealing with stuff going...
The only other thing I wanted to touch on with Apple is that, because it does relate to something we've been banging on about for some time, games on its own. There's like a games app now, and you can browse games within the games app. We've talked about it. We've had the rant before. I'm sure I've had the rant before, where it's like, I'm okay with Apple charging their 30% for games. They make 80% of their services revenue. Which about services revenue being the number one driver for the Apple stock price for fucking years.
Yep.
80% of like services revenue comes from friggin' gems in the App Store. This has been a Down Round theme since we started Down Round. I think episode 1 of Down Round, we probably talked about like gems in the App Store being Apple's growth.
Yep.
If Apple had kind of drawn a line down the middle and said like, we're still going to charge 30% for gems in games basically is 30%, and you have to use our Apple App Store because games can be dodgy and they can take advantage of kids, and like, games is its own thing. Plus, by the way, Sony charges 30% on fucking PlayStation and Xbox charges 30%. So games is its own thing, but we have a different rules for friggin' Canva and Netflix and SaaS, exactly, and like Amazon Bookstore and Patreon and whatever. They're a different thing. They're a different thing with different rules.
Yeah, and our games platform, it's like the PlayStation, and we're one of the biggest gaming companies on earth, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about this a lot, and like literally ran a bit like they should just split it out and be softer on the non-game stuff. And yes, maybe they'll piss off the gamers, but even like hardcore gamers don't see mobile gaming as like gaming. Like it's a win-win-win across the board. Like we've been saying for years, they should do that. Fucking keep getting, as I said, gaming is most of their fucking services, their App Store revenue anyway. They've just announced that there's a games app, which includes, you can buy fucking games within it, as well as Apple Arcade, other things. And like all your games are within the games app. This could be a move in that direction.
Yeah, I think it probably is. Although, I mean, like, the counterpoint is that the people who are loudest about the App Store shit is Epic Games.
Yes.
So the Fortnite or whatever is going to be a problem. But I agree that I think you're right. They're trying to divide and rule. They're like, okay, we're distinguishing it. The app, it's not just the App Store.
Mm.
And like, I don't know if they will pull the trigger eventually and say, okay, there's no more games in the App Store. You have to go to the games app for that. But maybe they do. I don't know. But they're clearly trying something.
There could be something where, Spotify obviously being another big one that I should have mentioned in the rant, that's like a real fucking sticking point where it's like Apple have a competitor that they take 30% of Spotify's revenue, and Spotify aren't allowed to like advertise that you can purchase them elsewhere, etc. But anyway, even if it's the case that it's like, okay, a small percentage of people actually buy their apps through the game store. If you want to be in the game store, you have to flag yourself as a game, and therefore you're signing up to the 30% friggin' fee, because more and more mobile gamers are buying the thing. You can see this kind of happening where like games then have to self-identify as games, and if you want to have exposure to the people who buy games, I mean, who knows if it's that, or if it's an Apple Arcade Play, or if it's an Apple fucking they've wanted to be a console forever.
I think you're probably right. If only on the basis that it's like, I don't know why they'd be doing that now, other than at the exact point where this has become genuinely existential. Yeah. In the sense that like regulators all over the world are being like, the App Store is fucked. You can't just be making all your money from being the fucking toll keeper for the internet. That's not the way the economy should work.
Yeah.
Is that you just go, oh, excuse me.
Yeah, and your whims determine, like, innovation.
Are you making something that can only be interacted with on a screen? Sorry, you got to give Tim Cook 30% of your money.
And you determine, like, what business models are feasible or not.
Yeah. At that
Governments don't like that.
At that exact point, they start saying, maybe we split that out. I don't know. Maybe they are also limited just by the UI. Like, if you go to the App Store right now, it's dominated by games. So maybe there's also an angle where they're kind of like, we're rethinking what the App Store is in the age of, I don't know, in the age of AI, in the age of, like, what software development might look in the future. Let's move the games out, and then we can rethink what the App Store is supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, a bit late for my liking, personally, as, like, someone who, to be frank, plays... I'll maybe pick up a new game once a year, maybe. Mm-hmm. Balatro was last year.
Balatro, great game.
Before that, it was probably Threes, so maybe a new game every 5 years.
Okay, yep.
Mobile game. Threes is a great game, though.
Oh, on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
Although I played Sneaky Sasquatch with my daughter. That was pretty sick.
That's beautiful. All right. Okay, we've talked about Apple quite enough, folks. So we are going to move on to our premium episode. If you're not a premium subscriber...
Now's the time.
Head to downround.net.
The universe is sending you a signal. It's the time to be a Downround premium subscriber. If you are looking for a signal, this is it.
This is it. We're going to talk about Scale AI and the various other things in that orbit.
And we'll vaguely mention pedophilia. That's right, folks.
I mean,
allegedly.
It could be, we could touch on it as a adjacent topic.
In a negative way, obviously.
Obviously in a negative way. But it also, this gives you an extra podcast episode every single week. You can join our Discord. You know the drill. And if you do know the drill, just fucking do it. Go to downround.net, sign up, and we will speak to you momentarily.
That's right. Apple's got to get rid of the notch.